everyone. Welcome to Wild on Design, the webcast series presented by Women in Luxury Design and the Pacific Design Center. I'm Jennifer Convy, the host and director of Women in Luxury Design, and we are going to have a fun day today. I am super excited about our next guest and the topic. I say that all the time, but I truly always mean it. We have incredible designers and leaders here. So today is Madeline Stuart. Yes, she is a leading member of the Los Angeles design community whose wide-ranging clientele comes from the entertainment industry, as well as the world of business and finance. And actually, she has roots firmly planted in Hollywood entertainment herself. We're going to learn so much about her. She and her firm are predicated on the notion of timeless design, be it modernist or traditional in inspiration. She and her firm are included in the AD 100 list. That's the top 100 interior designers and architects in the Architectural Digest list. Anyway, without further ado, welcome Madeline Stuart. Hello.
Hello, how are you,
Hi.
Jennifer? Thank you so much for inviting me to chat with you today.
I am so excited. I know we've chatted in person, but I'm so excited to have you here. Here's why. For those of you that haven't ever seen her speak, I know I'm creating pressure now, but she's just always such an inspiration. You always share so many incredible insights and stories, and it's fun and it's funny, and my vocabulary is always expanding every time I listen to you. So let's see what word I learned today.
I have to come up with the word of the day. You know, I think more than anything, I'm just honest, and I am not afraid. At this point in my life, I'm too old and too tired to just be polite. I want to tell it like it is, and I want people to know that I'm just being who I am, which is, you know, occasionally a bit of a pot stirrer, but that's okay. It's who I am.
I think you've got spunk. Yeah, no, I love it. I'm sure you've been this way for a long time, and who's old? Nobody's old. I would love to know, first of all, how are you? We have just gone through 19 months of craziness with COVID and the world and everything. And I just know that you've been busy, right? You've been traveling and tell everyone what you've been up to.
Started to travel again. I won't say it's without its peccadillos and it's a bit of perspiration tossed in there. It's hard. It's hard to find yourself double masked and on a plane for 5 hours and pretend that everything is normal. It's not normal yet. Hopefully it will be at some point, but we are busy, and gratefully, our industry is busy, and I feel blessed and fortunate that we have not lost any clients. No projects have been put on hold, and we're all anxious to get back out into the world and see our peers and participate in events and go to cocktail parties and wear some of our fabulous clothes, of which I have.
Of which you have many.
I have many, and it's been, I'm not someone to come to work in a pair of torn jeans or sweatpants. I don't own either. So even during COVID, when I was the only one coming to work, I would still dress every day as though I was, maybe not as though I was meeting a client or shopping in New York, but I would still dress every day because that's what makes me feel professional. And I can't do what I do at the level we do it if I'm sitting around in a pair of yoga pants and a sweatshirt. So for me, I love to get dressed. There were no excuses.
Wow. And you have quite the wardrobe, and let's just talk about the jewelry and accessories too. I have never seen you, and the necklaces, and oh my gosh, you're a collector. Look at this. It's always stunning.
And I love it. And I have so much stuff I don't wear, but there are a few things that have become my signature. And these chains are one. I wear them almost every day. And I just, you know what? I grew up with a very stylish mother. And
she was an interior designer, right?
She was, in fact, she was a designer and a bit ahead of her time on many counts. And most of my style and my taste and my sophistication and love of interiors and architecture and design come from her. So I can't say I was born like Venus on the half shell. I learned a lot from my mother.
Well, yes, and it stuck. And you do it beautifully, and I'm sure your style is your very own. And isn't that lovely? I mean, that's probably a great bit of advice for other designers. You wear your elegance and understated high style, if that is an oxymoron. But I met you for lunch. I felt underdressed, and I thought
I know,
that was dressed after being in sweats for so long, But seriously, I've never seen you look anything but just, to the nines, tens.
Well, thank you. I can't say. Sometimes it's these 7s or 8s, but
but you're 7 or 8s. I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
as someone said, my casual is their black tie. So.
Wow.
For whatever it's worth. Anyway.
It's worth it. It's worth it. It's like, what's she going to wear next time? Ooh, what have you got? Who are you wearing? Okay, so I was going to get into this later, but since we're talking about family and inspiration from your mom, many people know you, of course, through your interior design, your exquisite taste, and your business. I mean, my gosh, it's, you've had who's who of clients and so forth, which I want to get into a little bit. But right now, I want to talk about something that most people don't know, because you haven't really spoken about it very often until this year. And there's a good reason. Your father was a filmmaker, and you actually grew up in Beverly Hills, Hollywood entertainment industry. What was that like? And spill the beans on who your dad was and what he did.
Okay, so for any of you out there who don't already know this, shame on you, because goodness knows, I've spoken about it on occasion, and certainly a lot of people have recognized me from my starring role in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Was my favorite book as a 10-year-old child. And I went to my father, who was a director, and I said, I really want you to make my favorite book into a movie. And he went to his partner, David Walper, and after he read the book, he realized it would be a fantastic film. So we moved to Munich, where they shot the film at Bavaria Studios. And I have a very pivotal role in a classroom scene. The teacher asks me, Madeline Durkin, how many Wonka bars did you eat? And I say, and normally I have to get into character for this, and I don't have time for me to really fully.
The method acting thing.
Yes, the character of Madeline Durkin, but I say about 100. That's it. That's all I say. Very pivotal.
It was groundbreaking.
Yes,
your
absolutely.
Moment in film.
And sadly, my acting career stalled after that. It was my first and only screen appearance, but it was probably for the best, because my father always threatened to disinherit me should I become an actress.
Really?
And the calling to become an actress was not as motivating as the money. So
you're very clear on that.
I think I made the right decision.
Yes,
I would not have been a good actor. I make a much better designer, but that is my one claim to fame, is that moment in the movie, and the fact that I got a $50 finder's fee, which I probably spent on candy, because I am truly a candy lover still to this day.
Really?
I eat candy almost all day long. It's really bad.
And she's this big. I mean, seriously, that's so depressing for me to hear. Great teeth. Yeah. Okay. So wait, so Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is the best movie ever. We're talking about the original one, guys.
Oh yes.
The best.
Do not mention the Tim Burton, Johnny Depp version.
I can't, and I didn't see that one. I didn't see that one. I only know your film where you're immortalized forever. Yeah. And thank you for making your dad make that movie. How many people can have that kind of power at 10?
You know what's extraordinary to me is that the film, when it was first released, was not very popular. It was not a success at all. But in those days, there were really only three networks. There was ABC, NBC, and CBS. And during the holiday season, they would play some very well-known films year in, year out. It was an annual TV treat. So you would either see Gone with the Wind or The Wizard of Oz, Sound of Music. And for whatever reason, Willy Wonka became one of those movies.
Absolutely.
And every Thanksgiving, they aired Willy Wonka in prime time after everybody had eaten their turkey and tired of their football. And this annual event exposed the film to millions, truly millions and millions of people, because in those days, you would get an audience share of 50 million, 60
That's
million
right.
people watching.
There was no on-demand streaming.
Yes, no streaming, no on-demand, no 8,500 channels. So people grew up watching this movie, and that generation shared it with the next generation, and those children showed it to their children. And here we are celebrating 50 years of Willy Wonka. And it is rare indeed that I should meet someone who has not seen the film. And I know there are some detractors, but I have to say that most people, when they find out that I had some hand in getting this made and that my father made it, they inevitably say that is my child's favorite film, or it's my favorite film, or I've seen it 100 times.
It was mine.
And
one of mine.
You can't
One of
imagine.
mine. What a great piece of history. And of course, this year was the 50th year anniversary. So it's in the news. It was all over the news again, and they were airing it again. And I mean, it's really just a part of our culture and embedded in our life.
Legacy. And that for that, I'm very proud. My father was a documentarian at heart. He won many, many Emmys for his documentaries. But at the end of the day, it was Wonka. It was Wonka that gave him the greatest joy. So,
And all of us too.
Yay!
Yay! Do you have your golden ticket? That's what I want to know. Do you still have your golden ticket?
Well, interestingly enough, when my father passed away, he had his golden ticket, and there were only a few made. When the film wrapped, they had to get out of Bavaria Studios very quickly because Bob Fosse was coming in to make Cabaret. So everything was struck. All the sets were struck, and no one really thought much of keeping any of the bits and bobs. And I know Julie Dawn Cole, who played Veruca, kept an everlasting gobstopper. And my father kept the ticket. There were a few tickets left over. And after my father passed away, what were my brothers? We couldn't like divide it.
Tear it up.
So we put it up for auction. As a condition of putting it for auction, we asked that they make a facsimile of the ticket. And they were gracious enough to make one golden ticket for the three of us. And I guess if I really wanted to, I could try and auction it as the real thing because it looks really, really good. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hold on to it along with my copy of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which was signed to me by Roald Dahl, who inscribed it to Madeline, who started the whole thing with Love, Roald Dahl. So those two things will probably, be buried with me in my own version of Tutankhamun's tomb. And along with maybe an early Barbie doll, or there'll be something.
Anyway,
yeah,
that's awesome. So with all of this provenance and life and entertainment and legacy, you said that you were very clear that you didn't really want to be an actress, but you liked the money of it. So tell me, what was your journey?
My father's money.
Oh, the father's money.
Disinherited, I would get nothing. And so I was looking to the future, Jennifer. I was looking ahead, and I was perspicacious enough to think,
Here's the word.
Actress.
What was the word?
Perspicacious.
Like it, yeah.
But foresightful. I could either go into acting as a young adult and squander any hope to inherit from my father. This all sounds very silly, and it is, but my father didn't, he wanted me to have a different life. And
right.
And actors, what they do is extraordinary, and I just wasn't built that way.
Right. So tell us the journey, if you don't mind, then tell us what the journey was of how you arrived. Did you know immediately you were going to go into interior design?
My gosh, no, I didn't want to go into interior design because my mother was an interior designer. And the last thing most young women want to be is an incarnation of their mother. The interior design was anathema to me. There was no way I was going to follow in her footsteps. So I did many things, many ridiculous things. I had my father buy me a company that sold rare and collectible records. And I sat in a room alone over Walter Keller's golf shop on Westwood Boulevard, plying my trade, selling Bowie bootlegs and Dylan test pressings to people all over the world. And it was interesting. And I loved the music, but quite frankly, I was locked alone in a room over Walter Keller's golf shop on Westwood Boulevard. So it was kind of lonely and not very creatively rewarding. So I got married and I knew I had to find something that really felt right for me. And I thought, well, maybe I'll go into the food business because I love food. I loved cooking. So I joined a team who was making prepackaged pate at a factory in Vernon. And for a couple of weeks, I drove to Vernon thinking this would be an interesting way to, explore the food industry. It is not. It was not for me in the least. So that was my last trip to Vernon. I then thought maybe I loved animals. I loved animals. I thought maybe I should try getting a job at the LA Zoo, because that could be really interesting, working with animals and exploring, all the, the various, types of animals that are in the zoo. And I realized, one, you had to take a civil service examination, and two, you had to wear those unattractive uniforms. It was like the equivalent of being a UPS driver. Like, it's just, I don't look good.
So you were out.
So I was out. That was not an option. And then I thought maybe about going back to school to become a psychologist, which I probably should have because it would help me in my current occupation. But all by way of saying that a friend of mine had a friend who was a young screenwriter, and he had just written Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and he went on to write Men in Black. And he was living in an apartment in Silver Lake with a futon on the floor and a crummy little orange lamp and an old Barca lounger from the Broadway department store, if anyone remembers what that is.
I do.
And my friend, of course you do, because you grew up here. My friend said, Ed, I think Madeline can help you. And she has great style, and her mom's a designer, so surely she must know what she's doing. And I helped Ed pull his place together. And he happened to be friends with someone who happened to be friends with someone who happened to be friends with someone. And I was passed around young Hollywood. I like to say like a hash pipe. And pretty soon, I was working for all the young Turks in the industry. And these were the future studio executives and studio heads and writers. And my career was essentially made. I went to Trial by Fire University, and all of a sudden I was able to hang out a shingle and had I had an extraordinary start. And granted,
you sure did. And so the pool of people that you actually grew up with, you wound up working with anyway, just not as an actress, and you wound up going into design, and you really had the cream of the crop right up the gate.
Well, you know what? I worked really, really hard. I'm very serious about what
for sure.
do.
I mean, the quality of class.
Yes, but no, it was unbelievably fortuitous, and it was. Who knew? Who knew that my first client, Ed Solomon, would introduce me to Stacey Snyder, who ended up becoming head of this studio, and Lisa Henson was, I think, my third client, whose father was Jim Henson. And 30 years later, I'm still working for Lisa, and we have an extraordinarily collaborative relationship together. And I was lucky, and believe me, I lost some of my first clients, and I stumbled many times along the way, but I never
Right.
gave up. And I put a lot of effort and blood, sweat, and tears behind
Oh,
my
for sure you did.
so
For sure you did. It's an amazing story. On that note, so I think the takeaway from this, if anybody is an up and coming designer or thinking about it, I come across them a lot in our organization and beyond, or people who are making career changes. I mean, it's so inspirational to know that you, even with all your background and access, you had a journey, you had to try things so that you could know you could eliminate them, even if you had interest in them.
I think the difference for me is that there was an element of self-edification that I was committed to. I didn't go to design school. I grew up in a very in a home with beautiful things and a mother who knew her way around antiques and contemporary furniture, and my father knew about art and history and literature, but it was the magazines and the books and the idea that I wanted to know as much as I could. And I think today people resolve to just look at Pinterest or or find ideas on the internet. And I feel like you really have to do the legwork, and
Yes.
you have to know the difference between what's truly good and what's on trend, what's outre versus what's timeless. And I say to people who work for me, we may never do anything that looks like Nancy Lancaster's Yellow Room, which is this iconic, this iconic space, but you should know about it so that if I reference it, or Siri Mom's White Room, not every room is known by color, by the way, but there are famous designers. There's Albert Hadley and there's Billy Baldwin, and there are people who helped create this industry and who created interiors that we still look at today as
Absolutely.
iconic and evolutionary for their time, and not evolutionary for their time, and what we consider revolutionary for their time, and so inspiring even today, interiors that are 50, 60, 70 years old. I want people
Timeless.
to know about those.
Yes.
And I liken it to Picasso knowing how to draw in a figurative manner before he could become an abstractionist. And the same with any great artist. They have to know how to draw a pear or an apple or the human figure before they can branch out and do something else.
I wanted to ask you about your book. You have a book. This is your first book, right? Am I correct on that?
It is. Heaven knows if I have the strength and energy to do another one. I just happen to have a copy right here. So
Yes,
glad you.
let's see it. It's gorgeous. I love that room. No Place Like Home by Madeline Stuart. So what inspired you to do the book? It's a big deal.
Because everybody else had a book, so why not? That was one part of it. No, that really wasn't part of it, because I exist in a very small world, and it's kind of a world of my own making, and I can't compete with this one or that one or hope that I'm on the top of this list or that list. I do what I love, and I take it seriously, and I do love history, and I love art, and I love architecture, and
Right.
I incorporate all of that into my work. And I finally wanted to memorialize what I believe in with 8 different projects that are very disparately different and unique and unto themselves. And so there is an arts and crafts project and a Hispano-Moresque project, and things that speak to me, streamlined moderne and Spanish revival. And I want people to, one, understand the difference between all these styles, and come to an understanding of how you can explore design and inspiration and elevate that to its own place within our world. There is such a panoply of ideas, and I want to be inspired by the past and how it leads us into the future, and not merely look around me today to see what everyone else is doing.
Of course not. You're not a trend follower.
And
You're
I'm
not
not a trend setter either, but
right.
it's okay with me. I want to do things that are more everlasting, like an everlasting gobstopper. How about
Yes.
that? Tying it back
Yes. Yes. Good tie-in. Good tie-in. So where can people buy your book? And it's called Madeline Stuart.
No Place Like Home. And they can buy it virtually anywhere, Amazon, bookstores, used bookstores, hopefully not used bookstores, please.
It's too new. And sadly, you couldn't go on tour because of the pandemic, but you will. You will do book signings and tours. Yes. And then also, so I have a question for you. So your timeless design, even though you do a wide range of styles, as you said, are represented in the book, where do you get your inspiration? Because I know each design, each room is imbued with so many layers, if that's the right term. Where do you get your inspiration? Is it shopping, traveling, certain sources?
And you can see behind me.
Yes.
I have an extraordinary library. I love books. I love being inspired by books. I'm a book collector. And when I start a project, the first thing I do is go to my library. And I have thousands of books on everything and anything. And that is where I get a lot of my inspiration. But I will tell you, I get up out of my chair. I go shopping. I go to stores. I go to stone yards. I love to see and touch and feel. And I think too many people in our industry are comfortable sitting behind a screen in their chair and just looking at things online. And you cannot understand.
Especially in these times. A lot of people are doing that. They didn't have a choice, but it's not good.
Yes, it's right now, that's what we've had to do to survive, but that's not my choice. I love to see and touch and feel. And that, I think, is how you learn.
Right. I know you're a treasure hunter.
Yes.
You love to find really that wow factor piece, that treasure that just inspires you. And you do that through your travels and shopping. And you probably advise all of us to do that. And I'm a big believer in that myself. But have you ever, and I probably know the answer to this before I ask it, have you ever found a treasure, a single item, whatever it is, and built an entire design around it or entire room?
No question. Absolutely. The answer, absolutely.
Yes.
Whether it's a chair or a single light fixture or a pair of candlesticks or something that has become so, the clients and I have so fixated on. It might be a rug, it might be a color, and that has informed an entire project. And that's magical when it happens. Absolutely.
It is. Would some people say equate that to possibly buying the shoes and then making the dress and outfit go around it? I've done that. I have done that.
I just bought a pair of shoes. Truth be told, at Teresa Newton down the block, slight plug. And
nice.
now I have to figure out what I'm going to wear with those shoes.
See?
But
you'll make it happen.
It's that, it's that, as Proust would say, that Madeleine moment where something you bite into, whatever that may be, forms and informs the rest of the project.
What are some of your favorite projects? Just a quick list. Give me 3 or 4 of your favorite rooms. How about that? And why? With treasures in it.
Oh, if I had children, I would say to you, is this like having to name your favorite child?
I know. Okay, if you can't, you can't. I get it. You don't want to offend the other children.
I will start by saying the salon at the home I did that had belonged to Cedric Gibbons. Cedric Gibbons was the great art director for MGM for almost 40 years. He art directed The Wizard of Oz and won more Academy Awards than anyone else. And this was a house he built for himself, his gorgeous bride, and Dolores Del Rio. And I was fortunate enough to restore this house and to decorate it. And I would say the salon of the Cedric Gibbons house is probably one of my favorite rooms I've ever done. There's a project in La Jolla that is one of my favorites. It was a historic house that we took down almost completely to the studs. It had been owned by Cliff Robertson, and we had to leave the front facade standing because of its historic nature, but we completely rebuilt it from the front wall, which looked like a stage set, on, and that is one of my most favorite projects. It's done in the Hispano-Moresque style, with Mudjahar influences and extraordinary tile work and beamwork and painting, and that has to be
Delicious.
One of my favorites.
Delicious.
There are many.
There are so many, and I don't know how you could choose. You've been such a busy person. Now you have a line of furniture and furnishings, right? So tell everybody what you have and what it is.
I do. It's a line of beautifully crafted pieces that are inspired by my own projects or something I've found along the way. It's represented at the Design Center at Thomas Lavin, who's been a supporter of mine for more years than I care to
The
recount.
Pacific Design Center, our partner, Thomas Lavin, we love him. Yes, I have seen the pieces. They're stunning, always gorgeous.
Thank you.
And what's on the horizon? Anything else? Not that you need it.
I have a pretty busy schedule, I will admit, and I do all the work myself. I mean, I have a great team, but I'm so involved in everything I do. I don't kind of farm it out to everyone. I love what I do, and even after all these years, I'm still excited by every new project, and I want to be intimately involved with every project. So maybe a fabric line, maybe something else, but right now it's the furniture line keeps me busy along with my my duties as a designer. Yes.
You know, in this changing world, we were talking about past history, how it used to be isn't what it is now. What would you, based on all your experience and insight, say? What advice would you give to new and rising upcoming interior designers? What are the best key advice points that you could give?
Number one, stop looking at Pinterest. Stop following the lead of other designers. Find your own voice. There's too much that is the same right now. And for me, I think the most exciting work that I see is by designers who are following their own heart. And they're doing something that is unique and different and unto themselves. I find so much sameness. And that makes me sad because there are so many beautiful things in the world. And I don't want to use the same palette on every project. I don't want to use the same lighting on every project. There are things out there to be discovered. Go find them. Look at books, learn, get off the computer, go out, visit a shop, see things in person, understand scale, understand history, understand the difference between what is really good and what is fair to middling.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Really know, and here you go. This is what helped me learn.
The advice is go to Madeline's library.
Yes, it's a library.
You're gonna have little knocks on your door.
Yeah. I don't lend anything.
So you're saying find your own authenticity, your own point of view to design from, right?
Yes. Be inspired by what you see in the world, by what you read, by what you find along your travels, and have your own voice. Develop your own voice, and don't really expect to mimic someone else. Let them be them, and you be you.
Sage, fabulous advice. Fabulous advice. Well, I am so thrilled to have you here. I know you probably have to go back to your project or something, but thank you so much. It's always a treat.
Thank you so much for inviting me to chat with you. I love this world. I love design. I love talking about it, and could do so forever. So good thing that you're cutting me off.
Well, no, we'll have you back. Oh, we could talk for hours on this, and I would love to. So let's just do parts. We'll check in. We'll check in on your latest projects and next things, right?
It'd be wonderful. I would
Wonderful.
enjoy it. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Madeline Stuart, everybody. Thank you, thank you. And all of you, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Pacific Design Center, Cambria, Monogram, and PHX Architecture, and Thomas Lab and Showroom.
Of course.
At the Pacific Design Center. We are thrilled to have you today, Madeline. Timeless design is the golden ticket. Yes, it is. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Bye.